My name is John Arena, and I'm a candidate for Alderman in the 45th Ward in Chicago.
Okay. Why are you running?
I'm a longtime community leader in the area. I've lived in Portage Park with my family for 15 years. My wife and I run a small business besides being involved in the community. And in the time that I've worked with the Portage Park Neighborhood Association and the Six Corners Association to try to revitalize that shopping district, I learned that in order to get big projects done in any particular ward, you really need an alderman to be engaged in the process. And I was disappointed that our current alderman, who's now stepping down and not seeking re-election, really didn't show a vision for the area. You know, kind of a bigger vision than just kind of getting the garbage picked up. And I think we need that in this ward.
Okay. What is it that you think are most important needs either for the ward or the city, and what qualifies you, or what do you plan to do about those needs to meet them?
Okay. Well, I think the ward itself needs to have an open and accountable ward office that's a resource for everybody in the ward. For the longest time, I felt that that was more of a closed shop, and people felt like, I just, from talking to people, they just said they didn't bother calling the ward office for a lot of things, and didn't feel like they were welcome there when they did call. So I feel like we need to change that. You know, we need to bring businesses and jobs back to our shopping districts and commercial corridors. There's a huge pent-up demand in this ward. We have a very stable neighborhood. It's been that way for decades now, and there's nothing but opportunity. But as I mentioned in the when you asked why I was running, because that opportunity exists and we haven't had an alderman who wanted to capture it, it's been something that I think I can definitely lead on. And at the city council level, in general, our budget process has been, again, mishandled. We've been selling assets to pay day-to-day bills, like the parking meter deal, which is notorious now for the wrong way to fund our city. To sell assets and then use that money for day-to-day expenses is just inappropriate. We've been ignoring our budget, our pension obligations, and that needs to be reformed. And I'm looking forward to working with the independents on the city council to move things forward.
Okay. What about crime in the area? Do you see any problem with that here?
That's something
in the city and or the ward?
Yeah, well, we'll start in the ward. At the ward level, we're in the 16th district, which is statistically the safest district in the ward. But like any area of the city, you have issues with crime. Mostly what we're finding here is issues with graffiti and tagging and incursion of gangs. We know that the police office, we're short on police officers. The numbers that I hear is 2,500 or more. And this is a problem. We're shifting resources around based on hotspots, and we really need a stable police force that's going to be able to have the coverage we need. We need to get back to having beat cops, especially in our shopping districts. That's one of the ways that you get a shopping district to get people down there. That police presence helps make people feel safe and comfortable. I think that's one of the things that we can do.
Okay.
Do you have? You also asked about citywide. Like I said, 2,500 police officers short citywide. We need to make sure that the areas where we do have consistent trouble has the coverage they need. Again, moving resources back and forth. The criminals know where the cops are. They can listen to a radio just like anybody else. And so they move to areas where they know they're moving the cops out of.
How would you combat that?
Well, make sure that we're, from a budget standpoint, make sure that we're giving the resources to the police that they need. Finding line item revenue items that we can bring towards police resources like the red light cameras. That's not a popular thing in Chicago to get a ticket, but people who are running red lights, and this happens to everybody, you see it happen all the time where people blow red lights. If somebody's going to run the red light and take our safety at risk, then they should pay for that. And with $64 million a year coming in through that system, I'd like to see that revenue stream dedicated towards an enforcement an enforcement expense.
Okay. What would you say to your children, or indeed to any child, that would help, that you believe that they should know, that would help them to grow up to become a productive, happy citizen in a productive and happy city?
Well, I just think, be as true to yourself as you can. Be honest with those around you. I just think that's one of the things that I've lived my life by. I've tried to raise my kids that way. Um, you know, my wife and I just feel very strongly about community involvement and giving back whenever possible. So I just think, those are probably the two biggest things.
Chicago has a long history of corruption in government. Why should we trust you?
Okay. I have a long track record of, I guess, speaking my mind honestly. Again, being a community leader for the past 10 years, the community's gotten a chance to know me and to know my mind on these issues, and I'm willing to speak truth to power. I'm not willing to just go along because somebody says this is the way. I've seen that. I've been told that over the past couple of years and haven't seen the better results from it. As far as trusting me, I think it's a matter of how I've lived my life. I raised a family. I'm a small business owner. I've just haven't lived outside my means, and I think I can bring that kind of sentiment to running the ward and helping to run the city.
Okay. What about gun control?
I'm pro gun control. I think, but I think the approach that's been taken in the city is really misguided. Really, the biggest issues we have is access to guns and illegal guns, and that's an enforcement issue. And again, it comes back to budgeting towards making sure we have the police on the street, but also dealing with the agencies at the higher levels of government where those things are mandated. I think some of the issues are, how much access people have to guns. Closing the gun control loophole is one of the things, but that has to be legislated at the state level, or at the federal level, excuse me. Here in the city, it really comes down to an enforcement, and the current kind of tinkering around with asking responsible gun owners to pay fees and to kind of jump through various hoops. While it generates revenue for the city, it really doesn't affect the guys who aren't going to comply with the law in the first place. So while I'm pro-gun control, I think appropriate gun control is the way to go. And right now, I just don't see how what Daley's proposed is truly effective on keeping guns out of the hands of the people who are going to misuse them in the first place.
It sounds to me as though you're saying you're more for the rights of law-abiding citizens to have guns legally and against the criminals having guns illegally. I guess I wouldn't call that gun control. Am I misconstruing it?
Well, the Supreme Court has said that the right exists. So for me, that's the law that we're living with.
Oh, okay. So you're for gun control, but you will abide by the law, and you want to make it work for law-abiding citizens.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like the law right now is saying if you're a law-abiding citizen, you have to, these are the steps you have to take, and that's fine. And if it results in keeping guns off the street, I don't know. I don't think that's proven right now. I think we're not putting the attention towards the real source of the problem as far as guns are. If the Constitution is interpreted right now by the Supreme Court to say that you're allowed to own a handgun in your home, then okay, that's fine. Then that's what the Constitution says. If a law down the road, or if the Supreme Court interprets that differently, then I guess we'll adjust accordingly. But right now, that's the highest court in the land that's making that determination, and that's what we have to abide by at this time.
Okay. Is there anything that I have not asked you that you think is important for people to know about your candidacy and your plan for the office?
Well, in this race, in the 45th Ward, I'm the really only true progressive in this race. I believe that going back from when I started this, I wanted to run a grassroots campaign that was involved people and truly people-powered. I've been endorsed by groups like Northside Democracy for America, IVI-IPO, the Tribune and the Sun-Times. A lot of groups, like I mentioned, are looking for candidates who are socially progressive but fiscally responsible. And I think I'm very proud of the campaign we put together. We've done it with minimal hired staff, and the majority of it's volunteer-based. We've had hundreds of volunteers out on the streets over the course of this campaign, and to ask people to take their personal time for a campaign like this and is humbling for people to take their personal time to do this for me.
In that vein, if you're for grassroots and the people and people taking their personal time, may I ask why you are not at the meet and greet that's going on now or yesterday?
Well, a campaign like this, you've got to make decisions about where your time is most valuable and where you're going to get the most access to voters. And so, in both cases, this is the 2 days right before the election. This is when a lot of people are making their decisions. So where I was on both of those occasions was out on the street knocking on doors. And that's what I've been doing. Like I said, I've walked 28 precincts since collecting signatures, knocked on thousands of doors, talked to people directly at their homes, and they really appreciate that I've taken the time to come to them to talk about what their concerns are and what they'd like to see develop in the 45th Ward. So I think I've honored that commitment.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much.